Really quickly before we get into the video, I did want to quickly apologize for the sound quality. I'm not really sure what happened. I used the same microphone and the same presets on the editing and recording software that I always use, but upon playback, I noticed that there was a little bit of a cloudy sound, and I'm not really sure why that is happening. So please forgive the sound quality. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started on the video. Today, we will be looking into the unexplained disappearance of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, who went missing on February 26, 2024, in the area of Stafford Court in Hendersonville, Tennessee. When I came upon Sebastian's case, it was of special interest to me personally as a special education teacher because Sebastian has autism and several other medical conditions, and I primarily work with autistic students who also have additional medical conditions. And just like any case involving children, this story struck a nerve with me, and I felt like it needed more exposure. Many of my friends are also autistic, so just overall, this case it did hit closer to home. I was also hoping to have this video completed during April, as April is Autism Awareness Month. But before getting into the timeline of the case, let's look into what we know about Sebastian's life prior to his unusual disappearance. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was born on December 7, 2008. His mother is named Katie Proudfoot, and his biological father is named Seth Rogers. He also has a stepfather named Christopher Proudfoot. Sebastian lived in Hendersonville, Tennessee, in a county called Sumner County. And at the time of his disappearance, he was 15 years old, standing at about 5'5" and weighing about 120 pounds. He is a white male with brownish blonde hair and kind of brownish hazel eyes, and he wears black square-framed glasses. Sebastian was diagnosed with autism as well as 6q27 chromosomal deletion syndrome, which is a rare condition that impacts both his development and behavior. As many know, autism is a spectrum with varying levels of functioning, and Sebastian was considered to have a higher functioning form of autism. Now, this is what was in the reports. I personally try to stay away from the language of low functioning and high functioning, just because I feel that it doesn't really represent the person and their abilities. And so this is just what was reported in the sources that I found, is that he was on the higher functioning end of the autistic spectrum. He went to school at Beach High School, and his mom has stated that he is very smart and was not the type of kid to really get into trouble or run away from home. But he did love video games, and he considered himself a gamer. And just like many teenagers, he was obsessed with video games, specifically his Nintendo Switch.
Green tea! A voice and an exuberant smile that have been missing for a year that Sebastian Rogers has gone without his favorite things.
Cats are the number one. He loves animals, almost all animals.
Animals, video games, books, and any chance in the pool.
He loves water. He swims like a fish.
Sebastian's home life was complicated and definitely adds to the complexity of this case. Like I said, his biological parents, who are named Katie and Seth, they are no longer together. They had split up years ago, and unfortunately, the relationship between the two remained contentious. And Sebastian lived with his mom and her husband, Chris Proudfoot, who was Sebastian's stepfather. There were intense custody battles and accusations of abuse, and just overall, it was a very tense family dynamic. There are also concerns primarily made by Seth. He felt that the disciplinary methods by Chris, Sebastian's stepfather, were unjust and he felt were abusive. Chris allegedly used a belt for punishment. And I don't believe in ever using physical punishment with children. I believe it is especially counterintuitive to do this with a child with special needs. And I think just hitting a kid, I really don't think that it teaches them anything other than being afraid of you, the parent or the caregiver. But that being said, I did want to make it known that I wasn't able to find any legitimate or legal evidence that there was any abuse happening in the household. And so much of this could be hearsay, that Chris was using a belt for punishment. We can sort of speculate what his home life was like, but until Sebastian is able to share his side of the story, there are a lot of unknowns, and we're kind of relying on hearsay between, these individuals who already don't get along with each other. And so until there's actual evidence, it's hard to say exactly what was happening inside the house. But with all that being said, let's now dive into the timeline of the case. The timeline of this case begins on February 26th, 2024, which initially seemed just like any other day. That evening, Sebastian took out the trash at the end of the driveway, and then around 9 p.m., he was told to go to bed. This was a normal chore for Sebastian, so this was nothing out of the usual. And according to his mother, she heard some noises in his bedroom, but nothing seemed out of the norm. And she figured that he was simply messing around in his bedroom. And like I said, he's 15. Mom says, to go to bed at 9. And, I was a kid once. I remember, reading, or I didn't have an iPad or a Nintendo Switch or anything like that, but I used to read or, paint my nails or do other things other than sleeping. And so all of this seemed well within the norm to Sebastian's mother. However, everything changed when the next morning at 6 a.m., Miss Proudfoot went to wake him for school that Monday morning, and he was nowhere to be found. And she called her husband in a panic.
The last time I saw my son was when he went to bed.
After dinner at the Texas Roadhouse on the 25th, Katie says she and her son went home.
Did anything happen the night he went missing that might cause him to run away? Was he punished in any way? An argument? Just a normal night?
It was a normal night. It was a calm night.
That turned tumultuous by the next morning.
It was when I went in his room and he wasn't there. He wasn't in his bed.
Katie says she frantically searched the house and drove around the neighborhood at 6:30 a.m. until she and Sebastian's stepfather, who says he was away for work at the time, called police.
Stranger still is that Sebastian's shoes were still at home, and none of his personal belongings, not even his Nintendo Switch, were missing. And if he had left the house on his own, he would have likely worn shoes. And furthermore, if he was planning on running away from home, he wouldn't have left his Switch behind, because this was his main source of entertainment, and he really loved it. I mean, he played it every single day, according to his mother. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, or TBI, they originally issued an endangered child alert for Sebastian that same morning. And Monday, February 27th, that alert was then elevated to an Amber Alert based on additional investigative information developed during the search. Extensive searches involving drones, helicopters, and K-9 units have scoured the area, but so far there has been no sign of him, and it was as if he had vanished into thin air. The investigation into Sebastian's disappearance has been difficult due to the lack of evidence in the case. A security camera caught strange lights moving outside the house on the night that Sebastian disappeared, but it hasn't led to any breakthroughs. Authorities and the family believe that Sebastian walked out of the house, not through a window or anything, because there isn't any evidence that shows that he had left out of a window or that a window was broken into by anyone else. And so the family and the authorities, they think that he simply walked out of the house, either on his own volition or he was possibly lured outside of the house. Multiple agencies that are involved in the search for Sebastian include the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, as well as Tennessee Highway Patrol, the Nashville Fire Department, the City of Hendersonville's first responders, Sumner County Sheriff's Office, and the Shackle Island Volunteer Fire. His father, his biological father, Seth Rogers, has also been fiercely advocating for his son. He even led his own search efforts in various parts of Middle Tennessee. He and other community members have done their best to keep Sebastian's case alive and to stay on authorities for updates.
No child goes poof. He's somewhere.
Sebastian's father, Seth Rogers, has also endured a year without his son.
Sebastian, son.
Seth brought in a team offering their own reward of $347,000.
While doing research on this case, I also came across a lot of judgment towards Katie, Sebastian's mother, as well as Chris, the stepfather. And one person who continually criticizes the family and also is covering Sebastian's case is a YouTuber by the name of Bullhorn Betty. This YouTuber has allegedly stalked the family to the point where they had to put an order of protection in place due to the harassment. Katie and Chris Proudfoot have, for the most part, remained out of the media to maintain their privacy, which I do understand, especially since there has been so much criticism, not only from this YouTuber, Bullhorn Betty, but just the public in general. There has been a lot of criticism about their parenting. But because they are choosing to not be in the forefront, in front of media, it does cause some people to misinterpret the Proudfoots as hiding something from the public. But keep in mind, this is all speculative, and unless you're in that person's shoes, you don't really know what you would do in that situation. According to the petition for an order of protection, Katie Proudfoot claimed that Andra Griffin, who is also known as Bullhorn Betty on YouTube, she claimed that the public and her social media followers are aiding her in stalking their family. And Katie said that Bullhorn Betty has also accused the family of harming their son, which has never been proven. So it's understandable that Katie and Chris Proudfoot would want to keep a little bit of distance from the media, since there has been so much chaos and harassment that has come to their family. And I want to make it clear that I am in no way justifying Katie and Chris and their parenting styles and anything. I'm not saying that they were perfect, but I'm also saying that it's not really a great idea to be harassing these people, because I do think that it distracts from the case, and I do think that it is making it more difficult to figure out what happened to Sebastian. Before discussing the theories for this case, I do want to stress that these are theories and everyone is innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. We can speculate, ask questions, but at this time, there are no confirmed suspects in this case, only persons of interest. The first theory is that Sebastian left his home to meet up with someone. This could be a stranger that he met online and someone that he thought he knew. However, at this time, there isn't any evidence that Sebastian was talking with anyone online. But young people are often susceptible to predators online, and it isn't outside the realm of possibility that Sebastian could have fallen victim to this. There is one lead that has come up, and basically it's this picture that was taken by a woman at a rest stop near a visitor's center in the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina. And basically, in the picture, there is a woman, and we're not sure about the identity of the woman, but next to the woman is a young man who does very much resemble Sebastian. And even his father has stated that the FBI should look into this lead because he thinks that this person could be Sebastian. The woman who took the picture turned it into the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, and her friend posted the picture online. And basically, after this picture was released, it was circulating social media like crazy. And Seth Rogers, who again is Sebastian's biological father, he went on an interview with News Nation, and I'll go ahead and play a part of that so that you can get a little bit of his input on the situation.
News Nation has not authenticated it, so there's a possibility this is a case of accidental misidentification or of a deliberate and sick hoax. His father, Seth Rogers, says there is video of the sighting as well. We're hearing authorities are looking into it, but whatever it is, the image adds a new twist to an already bizarre case. Do you think it's Sebastian?
I do.
And I understand you drove to North Carolina to check it out. What did you find?
Drove to North Carolina to see the video. I was told that the video was unavailable to me because of an investigation.
Where did the video or the photo come from? Do you know?
My private investigator has spoken to the person who took the video. The picture was taken at Grandfather Mountain in North Carolina.
And why would he, your son is autistic. Does he know anybody in North Carolina?
I don't know.
And how far away is North Carolina from his home? How many miles? Do you know?
It's about a 6-hour drive with no traffic.
The second theory is that Sebastian may have ran away from home. He could have been trying to run away from the family drama or the possible abuse. But like I said before, there isn't hard evidence that suggests that Sebastian was being abused. His mother also doesn't believe that he would have run away. And if he had run away, it is unlikely that he would have gotten very far. Sebastian wasn't working a job, and it doesn't seem like he really had much spending money or even a bank account as far as I was able to research. And also, it doesn't really make a lot of sense that he would have just left all of his belongings behind if he was planning on leaving long term. He would have likely brought his Nintendo Switch and his games, probably a change of clothes, maybe some food. And like I said, nothing was disturbed in his room, and it appears that he didn't take anything with him if he had left. Some people speculate that maybe Sebastian simply left home, maybe to go on a short walk or something, and he was planning on being right back. And that would explain why, he didn't bring much with him. That being said, even if he was going on a short walk or something, why would he have not put on a pair of shoes, especially it being February? It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And if he did leave on his own and was abducted or was met with foul play, you would think by now there would have been some kind of evidence left behind. It's also pretty surprising that in and around the residence, Sebastian's residents that none of the other houses or local businesses picked up anything as far as security video evidence that he was out walking about. It's pretty strange that with all the Ring doorbell cameras and things that we have nowadays, that nobody picked up him walking by their house or anything like that. I just feel like in 2024, there must have been at least one house on their street that had some kind of, home security camera. I just find it so strange that nothing was picked up, which kind of leads us to the next theory, is that maybe Sebastian never left the house. And this theory, I do want to bring it up cautiously because it is basically stating that perhaps Sebastian's mother and stepfather did have something to do with his disappearance. It is possible. And that being said, I don't believe that people online or in person should have the right to harass these people. And at this time, authorities have not considered them to be persons of interest. But it is something that I do need to bring up as a theory because it is possible. And just the fact that he didn't bring any of his belongings with him if he were to have left, and there's no evidence of him leaving, it is pretty bizarre that we don't have any evidence of him leaving. And so there is a possibility that something could have happened in the home, and that's why we don't have that evidence. The public has the right to speculate and form their own opinions about these parents and the quality of Sebastian's home life, but at the end of the day, there is no concrete proof that his mother and stepfather had done something to him. That being said, I think that it is important for us to consider that as a possibility, especially with there really not being much evidence that he did leave the home. Sadly, we are now over a year into Sebastian's disappearance, and the leads to what may have happened to this young man seem to be few and far between. But despite this case having very little concrete evidence, there is still hope that Sebastian may be found. The Sumner County Police Department, his family, and the community, they have not given up on Sebastian. And a $50,000 reward is being offered for anyone who has information on the disappearance of this now 16-year-old. And the hope is that somebody who knows something will come forward.
Including asking if there are any new leads, what kind of evidence detectives have vetted, and if investigators still believe there is no indication of foul play. Sheriff Eric Craddock responded in an email saying, "This is an active and ongoing investigation. We continue to work with our state and federal partners. We will continue to seek a resolution in this case." Hope that's still evident among volunteer searchers.
I'm not going to stop.
Missing signs and ribbons in Sebastian's favorite color.
And God, right now we're seeking you to reveal the truth to us.
Zero trace of the boy with a smile that's imprinted on countless hearts, especially, Katie says, on her own.
I would just like to tell my son that I love him and to know that we are never going to stop searching.
So a lost smile can be found.
Anyone with information on Sebastian's whereabouts are encouraged to contact Sumner County Sheriff's Office Detective Carter at 615-442-1865. You can also email him at bcarter@sumnersheriff.com, and I will put all this information on how to report information on Sebastian's case, as well as the case information sources. All of this will be in the description section of the episode. But with all that being said, thank you for listening. Be safe, and I will see you in the next one.